Hello everyone, ladies and gentlemen. That should not say season 6, that should say season 7, because we are here and it's good to be back. Now, there's a lot to talk about, isn't there? There is a lot to discuss, a lot of drama that we could see unfolding in this brand new season, and I, for one, am very excited for it. My name is Ben Sapsford, aka Sappytron. I'm once again going to be your tour guide through this season, renewed once more and reinvigorated, ready for a new era of SimSeniors. Season 7 is going to be pretty exciting. We've got a brand new refresh calendar. We have got all new races, all new racers, and we have got much to get through and much to discuss. Let's talk, in fact, about the drivers before we go trackside for qualifying. We have a brand new spotters guides, and you may see a little bit of a peek of the action underneath it, as we have the drivers who are going to be pushing in the background to make sure that they are fully prepped and ready to go. First off, taking a look at our gold class, we have Dan Moffat, we have Marsh, Cutler, McKibben, et al. You can see them all here. You've got some big names, some drivers who have given it all in the previous season. Curiously enough, there are some names that also have taken a bit of a shuffle out of there. We have seen Liam Blom not return, but not in the Mustang. They're not returning. I nearly got you there. Looks like they are going to be switching to a Nissan for this season, but they are down there. You can see the number 888 car. And we are going to see many favourites out there on the track. We've got Larson, third in the championship. We've got many faces that you may be already well aware of and familiar with. Now, we are about to get into qualifying, folks, and we will jump there very soon. But a brief look once again at our drivers for silver, and we see a few shuffles around as well. We do see, say, Paul Hamby, after the absolutely domineering performance from bronze, get a bit of a promotion. They're going to get their move up into the Silver League. They proved their worth. They absolutely stomped out last time, and it was quite an impressive sight to see. 66 points clear is certainly a statement when it comes to the grid, and a minor reshuffle was duly in order. Got a couple of other drivers who have made a move around, but the season is fairly static in terms of drivers. And then you've got the bronze class, again, looking very nice with this brand new format. And we have a couple of new faces as well, which I'm sure will be keen to introduce themselves and make a debut out on that course. It's going to be quite exciting, and I, for one, am very much looking forward to it. But in terms of our initial runs here, we're about to go trackside, and it is going to be as was before. The white numbers represent our pro, our aka gold class drivers, with silver taking the silver, and the bronze class distinctive with their red driver numbers on the timing tower. But this is where we are going to be taking a moment to go trackside, as we have got the drivers who are all but ready to go, folks. They are going to be jumping out, and they are going to be making their way around this course. Let's have a look. Let's see what they can do. First things first on the list, it's Dan Moffat. He's going to be the one to push out and make that initial run here. The number 10 car is going to be looking to make a statement after their championship efforts were somewhat squashed in the early stages of Season 6 last time out. They have got the pace on tap. We know that they can do it, and we are going to see them give it 110% this season. We've already got that confirmation from the rest of the drivers. You can already see that level of push is on full display here. You see already limits of the cars being tested, 270 Ks as we head down Kemmel and then through into the rest of the second sector. A little bit of setup goes into some of these corners, like No Name, for instance, as you get very, very important sections of the track down. Oh, a little bit of a wobble there from Moffat. Is going to be a bit of a slide as we make our way down to Puon, but they are going to keep the reins on that car, at least as far as the track limits go. They're pushing out on the throttle as much as they can throughout this first run here. Moffat is the car to watch, as they are going to be setting the benchmark, setting the pace. You had a couple of cars behind, so the number 12 car of, I believe that was... I can quickly find my sports guide over here. Or is it maybe the number 13? My mistake there. Lenatus was just behind, and then you've got as well behind them. That is going to be, I believe, Hartnell, but Moffat now coming up to the bus stop chicane. Very clean Blanchimont, keeping it tidy, keeping it real. Final corners now as we are going to make our way. And what is it going to be for Moffat? It's going to be a 218.4, immediately buffed out by a 217.3 of James Hartnell, now rocking that Lamborghini. Very distinctive blue and yellow paint job, and much to be desired for some of the other runs that are coming through, but very impressive nonetheless. Goddard on their way through Blanchimont and going for that early push. Some good runs initially coming out from this field. Pit spread is going to be quite tight. Curiously, though, we've got Engdahl and Hamby, who have got the exact same times between each other. Of course, new incumbent to the silver class. Hamby is looking to make a name for themselves out here in tonight's runnings. They've got a lot of additional pressure. They've been completely put in a new field, and this is going to play a little bit of havoc, maybe with their mental, as we come up to the next runs here in Quali. Because the mental game is just as vital as the mechanical skill when it comes to racing on a circuit like this, and qualifying especially. You need to get that perfect run put together, and if you can't get yourself in the right headspace, it could be curtains. Glenn Parkinson up to the line, best they can do is P20, so they are going to be immediately usurped just ahead by Craig Niesbet, another bronze incumbent driver, now rocking the BMW M4 with a very nice hue of British Racing Green. Very nice hue of car indeed. Many other cars are now going to make their way around. Moffat, after their initial run, put themselves now into 6th position. There is going to be quite a push from this field. Lindblom is going to be a bit further behind and is on their current best, so could be in fastest lap territory, folks, but eyes on Moffat for now. They are going to be coming through the bus stop chicane, a little bit of the sausage curb as we come up to the line now, and the final half of qualifying is soon to descend, but Moffat does get a decent improvement to a 17.8. Now, looking at who is now driving the Nissan, the R35 Nismo, really looking to vary up the field, as we don't really see the Nismo R35 become a regular field runner. We don't really see that car all that often, but regardless, Lindblom is looking to make a statement. They just about lost time in the bus stop chicane. You can see they went a little bit too deep there, and that unfortunately did cost them the fastest lap. So that is quite an impressive Sector 2 in particular for Lindblom, but it's not quite enough. You're still going to have Hartnell up on top, who is going to be pipping just by half a tenth of a second. And I got to say, that Lamborghini is just as loud visually as it is audibly. Making quite the statement on the track, just as much. Hartnell going to be setting himself up for yet another run. You have just behind as well, for instance, Homer, who is going to be making a 220.6, just improves to a 20.3, but we still have a few cars yet to set a time. We have Peyton, for instance, coming through the bus stop chicane now. Still not got anything on the board of the 39 cars. They are one of the last 7, and they are going to get quite a solid appearance. 218.5 is going to see them go into P14 with a couple more cars soon to follow. John Gabbert currently sat in the bronze and looking to make a name for themselves here. Let's see what they can do. As this is, I believe, a new face coming in and making quite a move, as that is going to be leapfrogging a significant chunk of the bronze running field. Quite impressive stuff here, as Nick Coolan, the other new runner, is going to be coming into the pit lane. John Mitchell, last they got a 2:23, but unfortunately was not valid. Yellows are coming out in some sections of the track as drivers are going to be yielding to the pits and getting themselves mentally prepped for the final 5 minutes of the session. All hands on deck for the drivers, as they are going to be giving it 110% with these runs now making their way through. Missouri once again rocking that 992 GT3 car. And while washing a little bit wide, just taking a little bit too much onto that curb. Seeing a bit of skittishness from the mid-engined Porsche. They are still going to be positive on their deltas, and we'll see what time that manifests into as we come up to the line in just a moment. A couple of other cars are going to be making their way through. Carl Thompson is going to be 28th after no meaningful improvement, not enough to pass John Gabbert, who is on the exact same time. Trevor Waite also going to be coming up to the line just behind the Porsche here. Let's see what they can do though. Hughes in 31st. Vissery make improvement into 26th. Thompson is, of course, going as well, but Gabbert is going to be displaced down to 28th position. Niesbet and Parkinson are going to have improvements of their own. We're going to see what times they can get as we come through now. Coming up, Parkinson unfortunately losing some significant time in that final sector, in the bus stop particularly. Not going to be walking away with the improvement they so desperately desired. Cumberbatch coming up to the line in the M4. Going to be an improvement all the way up to 13th. Quite a substantial jump here. And a great statement to make for the rest of the field. Leading the way for bronze, it is going to be a bit of a different face. It is going to be Chris Bradbury. And with a neon pink 720S Evo, I don't think it's going to be possible to miss that car as they tear up the bronze side of the field. Next closest is going to be Chris Wilson, who's currently sat 2/10 behind. And while they have got an invalidation here, they're going to be setting themselves up for that next run. Patrick Larson coming across a little bit too much of the sausage curve there, destabilizing the car as they try to get the power out, but still, half a tenth up. Is it going to be the kind of time jump that they wanted? It's going to be up into P19 for the McLaren. Very impressive indeed, as many more drivers are now going to make their way through. Of the 40 cars on this field, we have 4 of them who have yet to put a time on the board. We have Damien Reed in the light blue McLaren. We have Colin McNair switching from the McLaren to, again, the Nismo. We're seeing a bit of change up to the strategic choice of cars here, folks. This season is going to be shaping up something fierce at this rate. If this is the kind of variance that we're expecting from the field, I am more than looking forward to it. A little bit of a wobble, though, coming from McNair as we come out and down into Pouon now. What kind of grip, what kind of speed are they going to be able to carry as we have ourselves heading through? Oh, another wobble here from Colin, barely able to keep it together as we come out of Pouon. Maybe a little bit of oversteer, too much to handle for McNair with his current setup. Could be lift off oversteer, or it could be just powering on too much. And the differential's not quite playing ball. A little bit of a wider arc to play it a bit safe. Don't want to snap that front in too much. Big slide there coming from McNair once again. There's a difference between that slip angle and the uncontrolled slides, and McNair is seeming to teeter more towards the latter than the former in this case. We're seeing him take a couple of slides, keep that grip on the front, and the rear is uncharacteristically getting loose, meaning he has to take some corrective action. Bus stop chicane now, very nice line, coming onto the curbs, almost perfect there. Getting on the power as soon as possible, making their way out of the corner, looking very positive on the time, and it is going to be in the end 25th for league owner Colin McNair. A few other cars yet to take times on the board, but we'll see a few more make their way down. McKibben, for instance, currently sat in a heap of gold class cars. P1 through P7, all dominated by the top flight. We'll see if we can make a splash. It's currently down on the deltas, but it could make it up, because the bus stop chicane has been notorious in the past for sapping away tenths at a time. All down to how early you can get on the throttle. Looks like, though, it's going to be a pit run for him. And in the final minutes, there is only going to be a slight last chance for some of these cars, as many of them are resigning themselves to the pits, knowing that they don't quite have the shot that they are looking for. Hellstrom in the Bentley now, in P12, and quite a segment away from their rest of their gold class brethren. Bit of sausage curb there, curbing itself over. Does still manage to keep the pace up on the power, and is going to put themselves into P11 for this final run. Good stuff here. Trevorway is going to be taking that bus stop very wide on the entry there on the first half of that chicane. Not quite going to have the pace through there. Is going to break about equal, and is not going to be making a time improvement. Also have a few other cars making their way through as qualifying has officially ended, folks. So time to end the runs. That is all we have left, is ending the run and making sure that you bring it back home to the pits, ready for the full race distance. We have Johan Larsson, of course, main challenger to the championship behind Lindblom last year, or at least certainly one who turned up the aggression and up the ante in those final few rounds. We're going to see what they can do, what they can bring in. 2:16.8 from Hartnell is your time to beat. Absolute rocket ship of a car in the hands of Hartnell, who's looking to bring the fight to the very front from the start. And it's going to be P2 here for Larson. It's just going to pip Lindblom by under a quarter of a tenth of a second. 22 hundredths of a second splits P2 and P3. Immense driving from the McLaren runner. Bradbury going to be leading the bronze class and going to be seeing if they can get even more time eked out of that McLaren. Is there going to be a bit more in the tank for Bradbury here? That's the question on his mind, as is ours. Coming up to the line now. It is going to be a time improvement, but it's not going to be enough to take a new position, folks. And the last couple of cars now making their way around the field. Lindblom could be on chance to close the gap here. Of course, Larson with a .325. Can Lindblom make a challenge to his opponent here? His major opponent, of course, the one who came to blows with the most in Season 6. Let's see what they can do here. And coming up to the line is looking very strong, very solid. Bus stop chicane, make or break. Keeping even on the deltas. Little bit of drop, it seems. But could it be enough to pip P2? Yes, it is. A .102 from Lindblom. That's the golden ticket. And that is going to be them on the front row alongside the one and only Hartnell. Amazing running there from the blue and yellow Lamborghini. And that is going to take them to the top of class. Alongside Lindblom with a astonishing final run. And Larson once again running that trademark red and black with Wolfslander Racing. Looking to silvers as well, we have Matthias Holmberg stealthily placing himself in the heap of the gold class pack with a very impressive 217.557. With Oskari Herme, another new contender here for this season, I believe, making their way to second alongside Thomas Lenatus in P3 for silver. Finally, bronze. Another new face, Chris Bradbury, Going to be taking 17th, and then best in class with a 218.4 flat on the dot, with Chris Wilson and Jaime Goddard going to be taking second and third respectively. That is where we land out things, folks. We are going to take a short intermission as the drivers get themselves ready and the formation lap will get set up, final setup confirmations, etc. Do not go anywhere, folks. We'll be restarting the race momentarily, and we'll see you soon. Welcome back, folks. Thank you all for the patience. Now, it's race time. We've had a brilliant qualifying, and we're going to see exactly what these drivers can do. A reminder for those who are unfamiliar with our format thus far, whether you haven't seen us in our previous seasons, I mean, first off, go back and watch those because there was some brilliant racing to be had. But, importantly, let's see what these drivers can do in the race, because we have a 60-minute race with a mandatory pit stop with at least fuel. Drivers do have the option to go for tyres, but the option is not required. They do have the choice, and this is going to come down a lot to tyre conservation, to strategy, and how much they have fueled up relevant to the race. We'll of course see how it goes, folks, but in the meantime, as things currently stand, we have the drivers lining themselves up here for the formation. We are just waiting final confirmation and setups, and then we will start to see the drivers get rolling here for our initial laps, our initial runs. And here we go. This is going to be the formation lap. Then down to 60Ks as we come up through the bus stop. It's going to be a brilliant season start here, folks. And I am absolutely buzzed for what is to come. The racers are going to give it everything, and we are going to be eagerly watching in anticipation for what comes next. Our 60-minute race, one pit stop mandatory, and the racers will be having to give their all here tonight to make that initial impression. See Hartnell getting a little bit of an early breakaway. Of course, he did manage to get a significant jump on the field in terms of quali. 16.8, and the best that the next driver could do was Lindblom with a 17.1. So we are seeing a bit of an inversion in positions from last year. Now remember, Lindblom was the one in the dominant position just a season prior. That Mustang proving to be an absolute on-track weapon. And whether the Mustang is just simply not as powerful anymore, whether it was an agreement to go onto the Nissans, or just simply they didn't like the driving style of the Mustang and were more comfortable with the Nissan here. We are seeing a car switch, but many other drivers have done the same. We've seen people switch away from McLaren. We've seen people switch away from the Mustang. It's quite a variance in the field. We've seen some Bentleys out there once again. You can see big slowdown coming in from Hartnell as they try to condense the grid. It has been a bit of grid spread, and we want to avoid that where we can. Let us know, of course, in the chat as we wait eagerly for the drivers to get themselves around on the formation, who you're keeping an eye on. I am seeing a chatter as well, though, apparently, that this is a certain Hamby's favourite. So we'll see what magic they can muster out here. Of course, Hamby being the Lamborghini up in 12th. We've gone from a previously striking white and red paint job to now almost what looks like an Art Deco style, with a little bit, say, rust, a little bit of panels, cel-shaded art style, or at least, say, cartoon style livery. Looking very impressive here. Many of the others. There we go back to the front of the field as everyone is going to be dropping their speed down in just a moment, down to 60 k's to get everyone condensed up, ready to go. Here we go. One green flag, green light, go, go, go. We'll hear it over the radio from race control themselves as we are eagerly anticipating. Finally, down through the source. And remember, GT start point, not Formula 1. GTR lining up alongside the Lamborghini on the front row and many other contenders. Got a sea of McLarens, a couple of Porsches thrown in there for good measure. And here you go, there is the call, there is green light, go, 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 and immediately a big jump there from Hartnell. They're looking to assert their dominance straight away into Eau Rouge and Radeon. Side by side for a couple of cars as you go a little bit further behind. You've got many drivers who are firing their way through that corner. You've got a little bit of shuffling and big crashes further down this field. Absolute anarchy going on. We have many yellow flags coming out, many warnings, and there's going to be cars that are limping across second, third, and big collision. That's Wilson going straight into the side of the McLaren there. That is, I believe, that is Goddard. Looking extremely rough there for the McLaren. Oh no, that was Larson, I do believe. Really looking like anarchy here down at the bottom of this field. Crazy town here coming through as many drivers have already picked up significant damage. is going to seriously hurt their racing efforts. Gabbett making a move. Engdahl going on Saloma. Going into Poo on side by side. It's a dangerous game. Who wants to play? That's Engdahl just about eking themselves ahead of the McLaren, having the inside line. Now we're going to see many drivers start to file through into their respective points. Yeah, I would say Lindblom currently second place, trying to keep it onto the back of Hartnell and keep it close. Our initial laps now coming through, as we are going to see a challenge for the lead potentially. Lindblom is going to go a bit narrow, try and put the pressure on Hartnell right away. A little bit of side-by-side action, remember, quarter to quarter. They are going to go side-by-side down. Out of the source, it is going to be Lindblom who is yielding a little bit there. Experiencing a little bit of mic issues once again, folks. Apologies for all that. But so we go, looking around the rest of the field. There's a bit of a shuffle here. Massive cohort of cars coming through in this mid-pack. I say around the fight for P10 is where things are looking. Mansell back on Engdahl and Saloma. You've got Cutler, who is looking to make a name for themselves as well. Cutler being one of the top runners here in the silver class, now making their way into pro, and has a little bit of a different field, as gold is going to be beckoning for that Aston Martin, and they need to catch back up to the rest of their field. You see a little bit more spread coming through, as there are some cars who have dropped down. For instance, say Vasuri Cook, they continue to fight, and Cook is a bit of a more of a stone's throw away from the rest of their cohort there. And back up to the top. Quick peek there, as you have, of course, the fastest lap from Lindblom. Initial pace being set. They're going aggressive on the push, and they are right to the back of Lindblom. Oh, Hartnell right now. Are they going to be peeking for a move through bus stop? They're going to peek to the right side. There is going to be a little bit of nose in. They're going to try and lay claim at least to the first apex. Go for a bit of the sausage curb. Not quite going to get the grip up that they so desperately desired. Bit of a wider run, but trying to keep the pace up as we head into the next lap now. Into lap 3. It's going to be a push, as we are going to see Lindblom a bit later on the brakes. Very cleanly done. The Lamborghini is going to be well and truly caught with their pants down, and we will see potentially some retaliatory moves coming from them very soon. Right now, though, Lindblom has asserted themselves at the top of the field. They've had 2 fastest laps on the trot, and they're looking to set themselves as the benchmark once again. They had such a domineering performance in the Mustang last season. Let's see if they can do it again in the Nismo. So that's one driver we're going to have our eyes on. Another is going to be Cutler. There is going to be a bit of an altercation. We saw some brief yellows coming out, as say Saloma dropping out big time. They're going to be in 22nd, 23rd and beyond, dropping like a stone as we go down Kemmel. There's going to be much ado about what has happened between a lot of these drivers that has just come to pass. More shuffles around the field. Northern Cook. But eyes on this top 10 here, as McKibben is under some serious pressure. There is going to be Hellstrom in that Bentley just behind. And while the Bentley may look like a boat, it certainly does not slouch. It can move, and it can move fast. You leave too much of a door open, be very quick to close any gaps. Combination of the slipstream and just being able to lean more into the power. Deceptively rapid, Bentley GT3 is. Meanwhile, you have Oscar Herme in the Ferrari, up in P5, making quite the statement. They are leading the silver class right now, but simultaneously, they are going to be starting to put pressure on the pros. You can see Dave Marsh is under a challenge and having to fight with the leader of silver. He's going to be displaced as we come through Blanchimont and now into the bus stop chicane. A little bit of defensive placement and power down through a displacement. Oscar Herme is up into 4th now. The very good display, making up time, making it fast. And the 18.9 is just shy of the best lap from James Hartnell up in P2. The gap could see to be closed here as things are heating up. We have also McNair, one of the other switchers to the Nismo, looking to make a bit of a challenge and make a bit of a fight to some of these other cars. Now let's see what they can do here as they're trying to close the gap on the back of Patrick Larson. They did briefly have it within proximity. They didn't quite come to materialize. As we head into Eau Rouge and Radion, the question on my mind is, how long can these drivers keep the pressure up? There's only so much they can fight. They continue to fight like this, and they are going to chew through tyres. They maybe burn a little bit more fuel than they want to, and more importantly, the patience is going to wear thin. But McNair now, going on the inside apex after a big charge down at Kemmel. A little bit of a wider run. I believe that was Jaime Goddard just behind, and they are going to be taking some serious time losses and a little bit of an off-track excursion as they are now down to about 3 seconds away from Larson. Payton going to be having a bit of a challenge of their own here in the Mercedes-AMG GT3. Their opponent of choice, Chris Mansell. As we head down into Pouhon, see how well they can close the gap. We look to the top 10 as well, as we can see another familiar face. That's Ostrachaz in the M4, closing in on Hamby. Now, this is the battle for P3, so technically a podium for silver, as Herme and Linatus take P4 and P6 out there and are a little bit further afield of what's quite possible right now. Hellstrom as well going to be challenging McKibben for that 5th place spot on gold. Too deep there for the Porsche. Has to take a yield on that one. Has to give it. As Hellstrom now is going to be up in 7th. Net P5 after you discount Linatus and Herme in 4th and 6th. Because they are going to be in a little bit of an excursion of their own. McNair, meanwhile, going to be challenging alongside Damien Reed this time. The McLaren going to be putting on quite a defensive fight. The racers are, of course, trying to establish some early positions. They're not trying to be overzealous either with some of their moves. We do have reports of an incident that just happened a bit further down the grid, and we are going to get the bird's eye view from the helicam exactly what happened, so we can see Blanchimont now coming through. This is the number 282 car of Paul Wallace. You can see the Ferrari jumping on the brakes a little bit of contact coming through, and just a little bit dicey there. Luckily, no major incident has occurred, but that is still something that the drivers had to be aware of. This cannot be understated as well, the amount of chaos that we had on lap 1, which I don't even want to bear repeating. Eyes on the prize and eyes on the field, as there are currently, out of the 41 cars, you have 9 who have taken a pit stop of their own volition. Oh, sorry, my correction, that was 10 cars who have taken a pit stop this early in the race. I imagine that was to do with some of the earlier on-track carnage and taking a little bit of damage that they would rather solve than leave to eat away at their pace. You have two M4s of Engdahl and Ostrachals in very close proximity to one another, as that M4 is trying to close the gap to the Bentley up ahead, having to play a balancing act. Do they go full aggression and try and catch up, or do they yield and make sure that they can hold the P10 against the likes of Engdahl? This is the way up. This is the strategy. A little bit of a wide arc for Engdahl just shows how much they're trying to push to close that gap and get into the top 10. Let's watch what their opponent does. Key thing with any racing strategy, be acutely aware of your opponent's moves. Know what they are going to do next. Know what they are going to be bringing to the table and how they are going to challenge you in order to mount up a reasonable counter. Whether that's for positioning or just going for a slightly different line with a better acceleration or being obtuse. You're going to see that kind of push also come from Hellstrom as they try to close the gap on Paul Hamby. Just a couple of tenths, but those couple of tenths mean all the difference. Now Hellstrom is under threat from Ostrachals. Is there going to be a move happening from the BMW? They're going to tuck up to the right side. There is going to be a move attempted as they lay claim to the apex. Hellstrom is not having any of it, though. They are going to continue to hold their ground, to hold their line as we come through the complex at the very top and ending off Sector 1 into Sector 2. Now heading back down the hill, long right-hander, commit to that apex. Don't jump on the throttle too early, otherwise you will see a snap of the rear that will be very hard to recover from. Looking down as well a bit further, we do see, unfortunately, a little bit of scuffles and a bit of skirmish, as there are going to be a couple of cars who have the local yellow called on them, but nothing of major note. Although we do see Ostrachals have taken a big dive in terms of position. What happened to the number 74? Let's take a bit of an action replay here. So coming out, no name, down through to Puon. What is this BMW going to do? They're going to be under threat. I believe that is from Engdahl there, the blue Beamer. Of course, going side by side into Puon. There is going to be a bit of a door close and a bit of contact between themselves and the other BMW. That will see them dropping down into 13th, but not taking it so lightly. They will not be resting on their laurels. They will be pushing immediately to try and close the gap to make this overtake on Mansell work. As they almost go side by side through Blanchimont, a little bit of a wiggle and a yield from Ostrachals is going to stop that from becoming a reality. I'll say, very brave move from the BMW if that was to be the case. Bradbury and Vissery, another couple of cars who are in very close proximity to one another, but as is this entire group of racers from P20 through to P23. Vissery going to be the one who is making the most of the opportunity, though. Going to be side by side with Chris Bradbury. Of course, these drivers duking it out for the top end of the scale for bronze. You can see much more segmentation between the drivers this season. We're not seeing as many cars higher up mingling from lower classes, and vice versa. We're not seeing many of the pro drivers who are dropping down in that way, short of having incidents as we have seen with much further down. We can look to the likes of, say, Larson, Guillemard, and others, as we do see P38 drop out, as well as us now being down to 39 cars on the field. We have two retirees, folks. 41 starts, 39 finishes. Although only 15 minutes in, that could change. Vissery and Bradbury are going to take a bit of a trade, and it is going to be Iro who takes the top honours and builds quite a gap heading into Puon, I have to say. Quite a gap being built by that Porsche, and a statement being set. The Mosh in P5, meanwhile, under a sizable threat in terms of position, but not for his class. He is firmly locked in to P4 for gold. Stress more becomes, what is Linatas going to do to disrupt his efforts? Too much fighting with Linatas could put him in the crosshairs of McKibben, and that would spell doom for points. That would be a major points drop for the Porsche. And one that they will have to be acutely aware of as time goes on. We'll see, of course, what they can do. Trevor Way is going to be under a similar kind of pressure, this time within class for the challenge from Mansell. So the Aston is going to be a potent fighting machine. Not one to be trifled with or taken lightly. Of course, the Porsche is no slouch either. Do see a major trade. Something has happened. Something has happened. That is Vissuri. That is the Porsche of Vissuri taking a major drop. Let's see exactly what's happening here as we have sort of the real-time positional updates on the left board to say Bradbury, Vissuri, big coming together heading into the bus stop chicane. That is going to be a collection of one of the McLarens as well. A brutal end to that altercation. Both drivers are going to be heading into the pit. Can't see exactly who they managed to collect. I believe one of the McLarens, but waiting to get an exact ID on which car that was from the helicam. So I have got the spotter's guide here, folks, but not fully familiarized with everyone just yet. So it may take a moment to get us to identify all cars out there. Meanwhile, back down on Terra Firma and down in P15. Mansell continues the pressure on Trevor. And we're not seeing any decisive gap being closed. We do see them ebb and flow. Close and open the gaps in the natural flow of the course. But we aren't seeing those kinds of major fluctuations that will be representative of actually closing that gap. Mansell does seem to be a bit more confident. They seem to be a bit more settled within the field now. But they are having little wobbles and little mistakes here and there, like we just saw, taking a bit too wide of an arc. We'll see them under a little bit of pressure. Peyton and Austrichars are going to be fighting for the 4th position spot in the group. Austrichars taking a little bit of a drop. They are down now in silver from gold last year. And there is going to be a lot of pressure on that BMW to show what they're capable of. Austrichars, of course, not taking the challenge lying down. They're going to see their previous, one of their previous challenging foes in the former Cutler. Of course, the two have all but swapped classes. So Cutler has effectively taken Austrichar's spot, and that might introduce a little bit of a drive to prove they have what it takes to be back with the white number and letter. Cutler going for a little bit of a defensive maneuver, yielding after going a bit more to the inside to fend off the beam up from an overtake. We can also see a bit further up, we see Marsh. Lime green v lime green. Two drivers who are very much coming to blows very soon. If history is to be believed, they have got the fighting spirit and what it takes. We're at the 20-minute mark here of the race, folks, and so far, check-in with your drivers reveals that in the lead by over 3 seconds is Lindblom. They have steadily eked away at the gap between themselves and current second place for Pro, or aka Gold, James Hartnell, and then 9 seconds adrift is Dan Moffat in the McLaren. Very striking with the Vimto livery, I have to say. Scary Home is going to be leader of the silver, but not too far behind. You just saw it in the periphery. It is Thomas Lenatus in second for silver, with Paul Hamby, as quoted, being one of the favourites and is still putting up a heck of a fight to make that podium spot a reality. And not completely unchallenged, as we may see some silver drivers come in the future to make an aggressive move on that P3. Meanwhile, in the bronze, you have Jaime Goddard, who is taking the lead for bronze here, along with Alex North. Again, very nostalgic livery on that Aston Martin Vantage, keeping it all reliable with Homer, the Pink Panther, style 992, making their way around the course. And we're starting to see a few drivers now take their pit stops. So Cutler is now in. And we are going to potentially start to see a few more cars flow into the pit lane all the same. The key thing to be careful of with these pit stops is who you come out of in front. Traffic is a concern here at Spa. We do, of course, have the track map, and we can see that most of the field is condensed over roughly half of the course distance. But even a well-timed pit stop can leave you in close proximity to traffic, and being able to handle that, as well as trying to make sure you don't get yourself into a fighting situation, you just want to get yourself up to operating window temperatures. It's important. So strategy permitting, you want to be able to flex your pit stop a little bit to make sure that you have the optimal operating conditions for when you escape out of the pit lane and back onto the field. Take a moment to just appreciate the racers, all fighting for their own space, but also keeping it clean, keeping it fair, and starting to really settle into race formation. This is what the racing is all about. We see a big move coming in from McKibben. Hellstrom is going to get caught off guard. Hamby could be next on the chopping block, as there could be a double on the cards. McKibben not so content with just one go. See Engdahl with Ostrasaz just behind as well. Yellow's coming out. Maybe they had a little bit of contact prior. So far we're seeing what these drivers can do. Back in the helm and back in the driver's seat once again. I have to say, I have really missed the season. While it is good to have a break, it's always good to have a break. And while I'm commentating mostly every day, it is nice to see that the racers are settling in well once again to these kind of conditions, and are able to fight toe-to-toe again for a larger championship. Now, this is not the only event that we do here at SimSeniors, so if you do like what we have on offer here, then you might be interested in some of the other events we do. With that, be sure to get involved. We have a Facebook page, and we do have our Discord server as well, but you have to join the Facebook first in order to be authenticated and get yourself in to all the chats where you can see all of our offerings and maybe make yourself at home. Who knows? We're always on the lookout for more drivers who are willing to join us, and we see some new faces here in Season 7, which is testament to that. But we'd love to have any new drivers or anyone else along for the ride, because the more the merrier. We're here to race, we're here to have fun, we're here to have a good time, and we are here to enjoy the thrill of the sport more than anything else. We look around this field, we can see a couple of drivers who are looking to make a recovery mission out of their races. Larson, of course, getting hit with that early lap 1 altercation and having to recover basically ever since. Although that is not going to be seemingly deterring them, as they have made their way into P23. Not only have they made their way to P23, but they have made their way to P23 and are continuing to pressure upwards to gain positions, maybe make themselves into the top 20. And close even more from there. You see, Hellstrom has headed into the pit lane. The next driver to take that hit And we have the leaders who have only spaced themselves out further and further. Mansell, once again, being a thorn in Trevor's side as we head into Eau Rouge and Blanchimont. Maybe this could be the time that it gets done. A little bit of a different line there, a bit of a wider arc from Mansell, and unfortunately is going to have a bit of an off-track excursion. Meaning they are not going to be able to get that close proximity to the back of Trevor and get the move done. At least not yet, though. We have Sean O'Neill, Robert Homer, and John Mitchell also coming into the pit lane. Which means that we are going to be crossing over 30 drivers left to take. We have league owner as well, Colin McNair, up in 14th. Looking to join on this potential battles. Chris Mantle has dropped off a little bit to Trevor. They're out on the edge of the 1 second barrier. McNair has spotted an opportunity to make a lunge. They're in 14th right now, but I don't see why they can't potentially push themselves up into even P12 or P11 by the end of race distance. Considering we are coming up to the halfway mark, we have got some good ideas for levels of pace out on this course. And we do also have a couple of other racers who bear mention, and some drivers who we saw from previous seasons who haven't made an appearance out on this grid. I mean, one that stands out to me is that we have not got Mr. Starkey. And Mr. Starkey has decided to say he's started his own thing. Of course, he has been a major supporter here of SIMseniors with these championships, and particularly when you had the two groups going, was a major instrument in getting things running and working smoothly. And of course, Colin, the league owner, has taken over that. But it cannot be understated that, say, Starkey is a great friend here of SIMseniors. He has started his own drive, the GRDC, the Global Racer Drivers Club. He is a friend of ours, so as well as supporting us here at SIMseniors, hey, we've got plenty of friends here around this racing community too, so worth sharing the love equal ways. If you see me over at GRDC, I'm going to say the exact same thing. So friends support friends here in this community, and the drivers as well as everyone in this circle are class people who are all worth supporting. Well, we look to here, and oh, a bit of a grassy excursion there for Larson. Larson is not waiting around. They had potentially about to have been going into Carl Thompson's rear bumper. Another Nismo driver. Being big switch on the Nismo. Maybe there is something I just don't know about here in terms of value that car has received. Larson absolutely not wasting any time. Very risky, going all fours on the grass and still remaining foot to the floor. That is quite the move, and one that I sincerely respect. One that I sincerely respect with all my heart. As the racers are going to be continuing their push. McNair has just released from the pit lane, as well as many others. Oh, or have they? Looks like they maybe just taken the escape road. That might be my mistake. We have a couple of others who are getting themselves out of there. Mansell, for instance. Wallace is now going to be coming out the pits, but not before they have to take some much needed repair time, as others are going to be considering their timing for heading into the lane. Verme is going to be going in. Of course, what was current leader of the silver class, that is going to let the lead be inherited by Mr. Linatus. And this all begs the question, what are the leaders doing? Liam Blom has grown about 6 seconds of a gap to Hartnell, and Hartnell about 12 seconds to Moffat in third. Linatus has got his own bubble. Marsh is a bit further behind. Lots of drivers have split by more than a second now, and this is where things start to take a little bit of a calmer approach. Nisbet is going to also be jumping into the pit lane, and very quickly we are seeing a lot of drivers have opted to take the fairly equal strategy. They go exactly halfsies. They get their runs out on the track done within the first half an hour. They come into the pits basically as soon as they can, because on a pure mathematical level, as optimal, you're going to spend the least amount of time with the high fuel, and you are going to have the lowest peak fuel load at any one given time, which can be a massive hindrance on pace. That fuel load is going to have some weight implications, as well as body roll potentially, and weight distribution. But fuel is not a solid. Fuel is liquid. It sloshes around that fuel tank. It gets pumped all around the car. And it is also very dense. All things that the drivers have to be acutely aware of when it comes to juggling their car's performance. Hermate has re-emerged and just come out of the Camel straight in order to rejoin in 23rd place. They are going to be leading the torch for Silver Class runners. And everyone ahead of them has yet to take the pit. We'll have to wait and see what they do, as the rest of the field is now going to be making their way, with Goddard, Ostrogars, and Cumberbatch all heading their way into the pits now. That's going to be our next wave. I look to the leaders as well in particular, because they have no doubt started to encounter and have to navigate around some lower lap traffic. Of course, we do have blue flag rules here imposed at SIMseniors, and it is the responsibility of all overtaking cars to make sure they get around as safely as possible. But management of that traffic can see a little bit of, well, maybe a little bit of skirmish, and we have seen in the past that slower traffic, despite getting out of the way as quickly as physically possible in heated situations, can have ramifications on the races happening around them. They are still physical cars. They have still got to make way, and they may not always be in the position to make way with that. Now, there is a driver we want to give a bit of a highlight and a focus well, and also big, let's say big spot, very good spot from the viewers as well. This is, let's say, a brilliant thing we have here is they've got amazing people in the chat giving us little flags and little tips. But here we are, Gemma. I do hope I pronounced that right. Feel free to flame me in the chat if I have not got that correctly. But Frederick, the number 208 car, new arrival here in Pro, and is in 17th. Now, on point, they were at the very bottom of the field. I do believe they got caught in some of the altercations further up in the race. So, particularly that big lap 1 skirmish coming out Pouon, exactly right here. They are involved with that. And they are currently sat in 17th. Granted, yet to take a stop. So their final position could be a little bit closer to that original. But they have been putting down lap after lap, solid runs. They have put down the best, fastest lap time out of many others in their surrounding field. So 2:18.4 best. And for comparison, a lot of the drivers above them, short of the leaders in the top 5, they have not got higher than a 19. Most of them sit around the 220 mark. So it goes to show Gamma does have the pace on tap, does know what they're doing, and has the wherewithal to go for the attacks. We do see that is going to be Holmberg, who has made an evasive maneuver and had to go out the way of Gemma after an failed bus stop chicane. Marsh, Waite and Reed are also going to be in there, with Lawson seemingly having a little bit of a wobble and a struggle, although I'm not sure to what extent that is, because we don't see any kind of flags short of a brief yellow wave. No, very impressive runs from some of these drivers. Almost stealthily so. They haven't got to worry about how their runs are perceived, because they have done very well here. There's more cars to come. Scary Herme is going to be putting some serious pressure on Johan Larsson as we come down to Kemmel. Is there going to be a commitment here? Is there going to be an attack? Is there going to be a move coming from the silver? They are going to poke the nose in. They are going to claim the apex. Larsson is going to have to take a little bit of defensive movement, but there will be no positions changed. At least not yet for now. Herme also being another new driver, and also being one to prove that they have got what it takes to fight with even the best of them. Good move here coming in from Herme. Side by side through Puon. Someone's got to yield. Herme showing the space. Very respectful racing happening between the two of them right now. That is going to be the Ferrari who takes the lead out of it. And that was almost a textbook move. You leave the space for your opponent. You fight equal. You fight fair. That is what we want to see out of our drivers here at this level of racing. Immaculate. Meanwhile, we do see race leader Lindblom heading into the pits and just making their way out now. What position are they going to emerge into? They're just making their way out of the pit lane, out of Eau Rouge and Radion, and safely merging with the traffic coming through into the Camel Straight. They are going to rejoin in 5th place. That is going to be quite a quick one. I'm going to say jumping in now with it. Thompson is going to be straight into that rear view mirror and chasing down the other Nismo. Fight is most certainly on for many. Donatus making their way out of the pit lane. Hamby doing the same. Engdahl, Peyton. This is going to leave a crucial few drivers who are still yet to pit in. The yellows coming out as they rejoin into the racing field. See a bit further down that grid. Hartnell, though, does have an opportunity here. They have an opportunity in clean air, despite not maybe being affected at all by Lindblom's wake being so far ahead. They do have a chance to show what pace they're capable of before the pit stop comes in. We gotta say, Lindblom remains steadfast in holding the fastest lap, a 2:17.7, and Hartnell currently has a 2:18.087. So it goes to show that there is still a difference in at least one lap pace at play, and that has cumulatively resulted in about that 6-second gap prior to the stop. Elstrom could be seeing themselves pushing up into 15. Not sure what's happening with the pit stop indicator, because I am seeing a lot of drivers who have gone into pit, but for some reason are not ticking over. So after a certain point, we will just manually remove the pit stop indicator, because we do not believe it is showing accurate and valid data. We do apologise for these technical issues, folks. Early season, early days, new versions of software and technology. It does come with it some trappings, unfortunately, and this is just one of them. You know, see Larson going into the pits now. We see Hellstrom trying to close the gap on Peyton. Try to get their way back up to the likes of Engdahl. We have Lindblom and Thompson remaining in close proximity relative to some of the others who are further ahead. Like, for instance, Lindblom is 36 seconds clear away from McKibben, who is 17 seconds from Moffat, who is 15 seconds from Hartnell. So 3 seconds, actually pretty close when you put it in that context. But we do also know that a lot of this top field are yet to pit out. So Thompson is much more likely to be further down the order when it comes to pass that everyone has completed their mandatory stopping. But alas, last few drivers yet to do such an action. Ascari Herme is going to be keeping pressure high as Hellstrom has tried and failed to close to Peyton. Now Ascari is going to be unsatisfied with just leading silver. They are also going to be trying to take away some gold positions and even try and run on people who haven't even pit yet. We are now coming up soon to the final 15 minutes, folks. And time is running out for drivers if they want to get viable stops in. We can, of course, look to the front of the field as we head out into Sector 3 now. Hartnell has had a bit of enjoyment in the top position. Moffat is well and truly down the order, and I don't think is going to be a meaningful threat unless they make a serious mistake. Gap is widening corner to corner. We can see the Deltas has climbed. Hellstrom is going to head into the pits. So that is going to be Hermé closing up to the likes of Peyton. More cars hitting in. The field is going to be inundated with decisions. The biggest decisions of them all, though, will come down to how much they commit to their next position. Drivers have a fairly binary choice at this stage of the race. Do they continue to push upward? Do they continue to fight for a higher position, potentially put that at risk? Or do they yield? Do they remain steadfast, commit to the position that they are currently in to secure points? About aggression versus conservatism. Are you a bit more gentle when it comes to your race strategy, or do you prefer to maximize every opportunity, even that comes more inherent risk? You can look, for instance, to the likes of Cutler. Currently sat in Pro. Many drivers ahead of them in Pro, but have yet to take the stops. Now, they have a choice to make. They could go on the pass with McNair and try to push up for position regardless. Or they could stick behind McNair, work cooperatively, and then see where they end up. If there could be more positions on the table, at least they claim the safe ones here. This is the dichotomy that drivers have to juggle with every single race. And it's usually about this time that that dichotomy comes to pass. Thompson and Aldhouse both heading into the pit now, of course, sat in the bronze class. And they are going to have to take a bit of their lumps as they are going to be dropping down the field. You can see some of the other cars making their way by. Lenatus just passing Thompson as they make their way down to the GT pit lane. Guillermo is sat currently in 6th position. After all of this chaos, Guillermo is going to be, and it is going to be on merit as well, because they have technically taken a stop. According to internal telemetry, they have taken a stop here. So they do have this P6 on merit, and this could be pushed even further. Guillermo absolutely stomping it out here tonight, with the final 13.5 minutes now underway. This is what we want to see. And oh, Ascari Herme, they have made their way off of the track. They're waiting for a safe point to rejoin. But that is not looking good for that Ferrari. Let's see exactly what happened from the helicopter. You can see coming out of Kemmel Straight. So far, so good. Looks like, yeah, just a little bit too much. Either an over-rotation or a bit of lift-off oversteer. Coming out of that second corner. And that is going to be unfortunate, because that is going to devastate their running. Mansell is going to be now ahead of them on merit. Both of them having stopped. As well as many others in the class here. You only have Barham, McKibben, Moffat and Hartnell yet to pit in. And it looks like they are taking very long stints. Early days. Quite the run coming from them here. Of those 4 drivers who have yet to pit, question on my mind is who's going to do it first. Hartnell, of course, has that open road, but it is starting to encounter lap traffic. So will they come in this lap, or will they try once more? Let's see what they go for. They commit once again to the lap, and they're going to make it lap 21. We come across the line one more time. Of course, many other drivers are going to be having that internal debate of whether to do the same. But we can only wait and see. We can only speculate. That is going to be Moffat into the pits. That's one of the last 4 drivers to do so. Is McKibben going to follow suit, as they are very soon going to be coming up to the bus stop chicane? We'll have to see and wait on the timing boards, as Ostrachels is going to be trying to make a challenge on Engdahl, and it's not quite going to happen in the way that they intended. McNair is also going to be another driver to make a challenge, but this time a lot closer and on Cutler. But at this point, we do feel it fitting. We are going to turn off the pit displays, as besides Barham, McKibben and Hartnell, everyone else has taken their pit stops, and we can very easily verbally keep track of that. This is what your order looks like, folks. We have got Hartnell along with the likes of McKibben and Moffat currently at the top, but Moffat is set to drop with their pit stop currently taking place, and Lindblom is going to take that spot in their place. Then you have Barham, currently sat 5th, with Lenatus and Hamby going to be 7th and 9th, but also 2nd and 3rd respectively within their group. And then much further down the field, you'd have Jaime Goddard leading bronze, with Thompson and North making it 2nd and 3rd. Much to play for as the racing continues here. Liam Blom is going to assert themselves into P3 now, as Moffat is going to be exiting the pits. Looks like they've gone for a very quick splash and dash, a very quick pit stop coming from the current P4 in the McLaren. Only 8 seconds it looks to be stopped time. All the rest was just commuting down the pit lane. A little bit of a peek around. Let's see, that is Barham under a little bit of threat. But that Ferrari behind them, that is going to be a bit of a different face. The face that we haven't really mentioned thus far for a little while. That Ferrari is looking very close, very hungry. And in fact, is going to be just pushing up ahead. It's the number 495. It's Mark Hughes. That is the one that is giving the P4 and P5 racers such difficulties. It is one of the back markers. Meanwhile, coming out of Kemmel, Mansell, McNair, they're going to fight side by side. McNair is going to be the one to yield as Mansell lays claim to the outside and uses that extra power to push their car around into the leading spot between the two. Couple of yellow flag warnings, but we are in the final 10 minutes now. So this is do or die for many. Just taking a moment to look around the field. Let's look to the top. Hartnell, 22 laps in. Still on their initial stint. Barham has now headed into the pits and is going to be dropping down the order. But not through lack of trying, as they have put down some exceptional laps. McKibben and Hartnell, only drivers remain. Is there going to be a move into the pits? No. They remain resolute. They remain steadfast, and they're going to go out once more. This would put them at around 5 minutes. And luckily, we do not have a mandated pit window. But we do have drivers who are going to be giving it a little bit of concern with how far is pushed on that single stint alone. Meanwhile, McKibben coming up and again. Very long initial stint. They're going to be going out again once more. Payson on Engdahl. It looks like Ostrachaz is going to be leading this pack. P9 through P11. Cars experiencing a little bit of a wobble. Looks like maybe a little bit of an altercation and contact. We are going to quickly check back and see if anything happens. No, it was just in the end. It was a exit off of the pits. But we see that Hellstrom was continuing to challenge Homer. Bit of a peek to the left, bit of a peek to the right. And when we tune back into real time in just a second, we will see that that fight has not gone anywhere. In fact, we have just seen the trade between. Hellstrom has got past through the Kemmel Straight. And in a commanding fashion too. Bit of a wobble from McNair, we just see in the background. They are going to be under pressure from Scari. Rock and a hard place. Hasn't got anyone to lean on further ahead. Mansell has got their own fight with the Cutler. And Hermé is breathing down the neck of that Nismo. Johan has done a pretty good job of tonight's race. Has done well to recover all the way into P12 despite their earlier setbacks. Alas, the time is running short. And Hartnell, race leader, finally enters the pits. Are we going to see McKibben do the same? Most likely so. They're likely following the cadence of the leader and waiting till the last possible moment to get that pit stop done. Minimize the pit downtime and get themselves back on that track ASAP. We see other drivers continue to challenge for their respective positions, but then McKibben coming up to the bus stop chicane and then is going once more. They're going to really push it to the right ragged edge of the race here. They are going to be leaving it all the way until the final 2 minutes to complete their stop. That is a very high-risk strategy, if I do say so myself. Leaves you very little opportunity for recourse if things don't go your way heading into that final stop. They're going to have to bring their A game for that last push. But Hartnell now, pit lane. Lindblom, driver to watch. Coming up into lap 24 now. Let's see where Hartnell releases relative to the Nismo that is making its way into La Source now. They are going to be sat in the pit. Hartnell is going to slowly be making their way up. Hartnell is out. Are they going to be out in time? Just ahead of Lindblom. That longer stint is going to be everything here. And they have closed a significant gap after Lindblom. 6 seconds has now become 2. So strategic weaponry being fully used, fully on display. A masterclass from Hartnell is going to push them into the 2-second barrier. Will it be enough to challenge for the lead and the win of the race? We'll have to wait and find out, of course. But a great strategic tactic has left them several seconds closer than when they started. Remember, 6 was the benchmark, and we're now on 2.5. Quality stuff there. And these are the kind of wider plays that can easily go unnoticed, but show so much mastery of the format and of yourself as well as the car. You know how much you can eke those tyres out. You know how much you can ration that fuel. You will be doing very well for yourself in a race. And we will see, of course, the last runner out. Blanchimont now for McKibben, the number 45 Porsche. Coming through bus stop. And there you go. Final driver now to pit in. They are probably going to emerge a fair bit further back than the rest of this field, but they have done some exceptional work. As you can see there is the call from race control that the leader himself is on the final lap. And that leader is going to likely exchange as Lindblom is going to be making their way onto lap 25 here for the final time we head round Spa. Let's see where these drivers end up. McKibben is going to be passed by both Hartnell and Lindblom as they make their way down. Yet to stop themselves in the GT pit lane. Are going to see themselves be overtaken. Now, is Moffat going to be able to close in as well? That is another question. Will there be a close-in from the McLaren 720S making their way out of the source now and through to Eau Rouge and Raidillon? It looks like that could be the case. McKibben still has yet to fully stop in the pit. And you can see here, now they have just been released and they're quickly trying to make their way out because Guermar is going to be making their way up. Eau Rouge, Raidillon, quick rush there. Guermar, 4th place. Quite an astonishing feat. Absolute masterclass from some of these drivers. It's nothing short of mesmerising watching these racers go at it, do what they do best, and bring the art of racing to our screens here tonight. Oscari going for a last minute move on Cutler is going to successfully confirm it through. But we do have much more in terms of silver runners to discuss. Hermate was on such a strong run, but unfortunately that mistake coming out of Kemmel a few laps prior was all they needed to drop it out. But as we come through, final sector now for our race leader. 2.5 seconds behind is Hartnell with an amazing stint. And a very long overcut, but it did work out quite well to close the time. I think if they had the pace a bit more early days, they could have had this. They very much could put the challenge to Lindblom. We haven't seen that whitewash dominance that we saw in seasons prior, which is a great thing to see. that we are seeing that fight come out in full spirit. So as we come through, final time, bus stop chicane, we have a winner. And it is going to be the one, the only, David Lienblom coming up to the line. And there is the call for the race control. The leader has finished the race with Hartnell coming in through into second place. And the checker flag now falling. These drivers are going to start finishing. Moffat makes their way to the line. That's going to be your podium for Pro. Meanwhile, you look a bit further down. Bus stop chicane. A brilliant race. Cannot be faulted. Even put the swing in the step for some of the pros. Up in gold. As Guillermo McKibben clock it over the line. Lenatus is going to take the win for silver. Marsh is not going to be far behind in 7th with Hamby, proving their worth as a extremely strong silver competitor after the promotion, into 2nd with Ostrachals in 3rd. Looking to the rest of this field now as we jump our way down. We do have a Mustang runner in the form of Sean O'Neill. Always nice to see. But it looks like we are going to have a bronze class taking the front, and taking the 4 is going to be Carl Thompson. Jaime Goddard has in fact taken a bit of a positional drop, and North is going to be making a bit of a fight with Gary Barham up in 23rd, with Goddard even potentially dropping a bit further down. So here we are. Carl Thompson is going to be your winner for bronze, with North taking P2. And it looks like it could be Aldhouse after all, with Jaime Goddard dropping significant chunks of time in the last dying moments. Very inspired. Aldhouse with the Lego livery there. Awaken the inner child as we come up to the line. Very impressive race from everyone on this field. Immense driving by one and all. Last couple of cars are now making their way up to the line. And then we will very soon have the racers being totted up in terms of points, in terms of performance. And that early championship is going to be set in motion. Here we have just Gabbert now crossing the line. There you go, folks. That is where we call it. Of course, some brilliant runs and some brilliant racing from all across this field. Unfortunately, we didn't see everyone get a chance to finish. We did lose out on, I believe, Parkinson 2 laps down. We did lose out on Bradbury, as well as Cook and Coolan. It's going to be a couple of drops for them, and maybe not the season start that they wanted, but still, many drivers can be proud of themselves, be proud of the races they've had tonight. And with that all being said, folks, this is where we take our leave. Of course, I have been Ben Zapsford, aka Sappytron. It's brilliant to be back in the commentary box here for Season 7. I absolutely loved it from Season 6. I absolutely loved it beyond. And I'm very glad to be back once more. We've, of course, got more races like this to show you and more races to enjoy as we are going to be making a look forward for the next couple of races. We do have an exciting calendar ahead. Next time, we are going to be headed all the way over to Britain. It's going to be Silverstone. And Silverstone is quite an impressive track, if I do say so myself. I'm very much looking forward to seeing what these drivers could do. I'm looking forward to the kind of challenge that these drivers are going to pose here out on the British circuit. But if you want a little bit of a preview, then we can take a quick look at that just as a little treat. Of course, we have a little bit of an overcast preview. It's a mesmerizing track to watch. It's got high intensity segments. Maggots, Beckett, Chapel, Stowe, just to name a few corners. Vale, big race out of that corner to try and get the power down. And there are many other things to discuss. But for now, folks, for tonight, I'm going to be signing off as somewhat overdue. It's been great to have you all in the audience, as well as everyone out on track. A very impressive initial running, and we're looking forward to seeing you all at Silverstone. So for the night, folks, take care. Have a good evening as always, and we will see you very soon. Goodbye.